While Legend of Korra is known as the controversial follow-up to Avatar the Last Airbender, I'm not going to focus on the controversies, instead I'm going to focus on the missed opportunities in the series itself. Some of these will be more fanficky than others, so let's get started. Number 1. The Fire Nation. Throughout The Legend of Korra, we really only see this one island in the Fire Nation, led by Mother Talzin. I get the idea of not wanting to retread the Fire Nation politics, especially since the comics of the time were known for having Fire Nation royal family drama be at the forefront of the politics. And while it's neat to see Fire Lord Azumi, it's rather odd for the series where ideological conflicts such as civil rights, colonialism, anarchism, and fascism are at the forefront. It's odd that they're not showing the legacy of the Fire Nation's war. Besides having an idiot queen in Ba Sing Se, the Earth Kingdom's warlord problem, which we know exists because of Pele's backstory, is not really addressed. Were those legacies of the Fire Nation's war? What about Republic City, since the Fire Nation colonies, and the oldest ones at that, ended up becoming part of the United Republican Nations? Do they have fond memories of their colonial days? What about the Fire Nation itself? Was Zuko successful at purging his civil service of war supporters, or did he begrudgingly accept some of them in order to keep the Fire Nation stable and not collapse into a civil war? I get not wanting the Fire Nation to overshadow the rest of the story like it did for the comics and the original series, but it's sad how much we're not shown of the Fire Nation at all. Number 2, the new Airbenders. You knew this was coming if you saw the original full video on this. Let's put aside on how harmonic convergence is a controversial plot device in order to bring back the Airbenders. I'm willing to overlook it if we had explored the concept of the Airbenders and the air nomad culture as a whole. The name of the season is Change, and it would be great if we explored the changes to the Air Nation itself. And yes, the Air Acolytes were the Air Nation, being ordained by Aang under the Bodhi tree, or at least the equivalent of the Bodhi tree, because he simply did not want his culture and people to be a relic of history. As far as these air nomads were concerned, well, these air acolytes, they were the Air Nation. They were the successors to the air nomad taught by the last air nomad himself, and as an added bonus, he was the Avatar. And then these guys waltz in. They're from the Earth Kingdom and Republic City. They don't have much appreciation for the air nomads as a whole, and probably don't have much information to go off of since they were extinct for 100 years, and that the culture itself was only recently recreated in the grand scheme of things. They're probably apathetic, some of them are apathetic at least, to the long held traditions and probably just want to learn how to use their airbending, because, well, let's be honest, life is going to be hard if you end up blasting air everywhere you go on accident. This is a ripe spot for conflict. Isn't it odd that only one guy that we know of in their ranks, Otaku, and yes, that is his actual name, gets to be an airbender? I'm surprised none of the acolytes felt betrayed by fate. They've kept the culture and tradition alive. And thanks to the Cosmos, they now have to deal with a bunch of random people who don't know this culture, who don't care about this culture, or who don't understand this culture. A conflict between the new airbenders who want to change and pragmatically adapt traditions for the modern world versus a more conservative force would be a good way to have a conflict for a season titled Change. It would be interesting to see a faction of air acolytes and possibly even Tenzin's own family like Milo say, maybe we should pragmatically adapt these traditions. Maybe we should add things like generals and armed forces, something that the original air nomads didn't have because they were all pacifist. Maybe that these Earth Kingdom sensibilities and these Republic sensibilities are not so weird and they should be embraced. Hell, maybe they should adopt concepts like not being vegetarians. Maybe Genora could be far more conservative and wanting to focus on keeping these traditions and their relationship with the spirits. After all, we know for a fact that airbending gets weaker the more worldly you become from the Kyoshi novels, so this is an added dimension. It keeps with the themes of change very well. Some changes are good, some are bad, and some grow out of necessity that are neither good nor bad, but can lead to both. Number 3. The Red Lotus cells. The Red Lotus frustrate me. Zahir's crew I'm fine with, albeit annoyed at the lack of development and focus for Gazan and Minghua, but beggars can't be choosers. The problem is with the Red Lotus organization as a whole, is that their organization is not as fleshed out. So they are anarchists who want to live without governments, institutions, and states. Okay, they basically fizzle out after Zahir gets jailed and everyone else is dead. Would be nice if Kuvira fought Red Lotus cells instead of random bandits as if this was a Manchurian insurrection. Maybe it would have been interesting to see the Red Lotus devour itself from infighting, or maybe they have a faction that says, okay, this immediate transition from Fall of the Earth Queen to this anarchist paradise isn't going to work. Maybe we should adopt a vanguard model for the transition into a stateless society. It would at least be ironic to see Zahir's vision only create a dictator and the organization he believed in fall back into making states as part of this vanguardist mentality. Man lets go of his earthly tether, but then he sees his vision of freedom fall apart in multiple directions. At least the Red Lotus would have some presence in the fourth season, if not just to be stomped by Kuvira. Number 4, the Water Tribe Civil War. Where do I even begin with this? One water tribe is a massive centralized power, the other is the Sovereign Water Tribe. One tribe locked itself away from the world, the other got genocided. And the price for getting the tribe rebuilt was getting exploited, all while the Northern Water Tribe technically ruled them as an autonomous zone or some sort of viceroyalty. Geez, no wonder a civil war was going to happen. The South developed on a completely different line than the North, with important festivals now being commodified carnivals. Too bad the politics of the Southern Water Tribe and Northern Water Tribe don't play much. No, we had to deal with the end of the world. Yeah, we gave up one of the best, if not the best, waterbending battles in the series, if not the franchise, for laser-spitting Angra Mainyu here. Number 5, the politics of Republic City. Geez, I think there's a recurring pattern with me disliking the politics of this show. Republic City's politics baffle me, and given that they are plot relevant, I think it's fair to call them a nice missed opportunity. When the conflict of your first season is dedicated to the civil rights issues between benders and non-benders, you need to actually show that pre-existing power structures would make the equalists popular. And while they attempt that with Tarlock, we immediately run into another issue of a solution after Amon's murder-suicide. President Raiko. So let me get this straight. You abolish a council with very low level of accountability to anyone, and, if Yakun's trial is any indication, has no concept of separation between legislative, executive, and judicial functions, with what amounts to an elected dictator. What? How does this United Republic of Nations function? The dude is able to banish Korra from Republic City without so much as any judicial oversight. I know Avatar the Last Airbender's politics were simple, but this show leaned more on the fantasy side of things rather than, the politics of civil rights, colonialism, anarchism, and fascism. This show really doesn't have that kind of excuse. If you're going to make it a theme that there's an existing power structure that favors benders over non-benders, to the point that people are more than willing to be completely okay with the air nomad genocide being completed by what amounts to bodily mutilation, you might want to show the power structures present that makes the idea popular. And you might want to show that before Tarlock's raids and creeping authoritarianism, otherwise it looks like a reaction to the equalists rather than the existing power structures incentivizing the brutality. And obviously, you're going to need to change the power structure itself. Tell us what the hell actually changed that prevents another equalist uprising, other than I'm just concentrating power into one guy now rather than a council whose accountability is zilch. Number 6, Rise of the Triads. Am I the only person who finds the concept of superhuman gangsters interesting? Because they are legitimately interesting. Did these criminal organizations arise from the discrimination they face in Republic City? Did they arise from areas where the United Republic had issues projecting power and thus a vacuum was filled by these gangsters? What do they smuggle? People? Booze? Cactus juice? Do they have their own initiation rituals, ranks, and structures like the various crime syndicates of our world? I need to know. A Scorsese-style drama about one or more of the various triads of Republic City honestly would be an interesting thing to have. Hell, there is an opportunity to have gang-related dramas in-universe. There's a nascent movie industry in The Legend of Korra. From history, we know that the Yakuza during the Showa period and the triads of Hong Kong had their fingers in the entertainment industry of both nations. It would be interesting to see how the triads transition from the illegal activity like cactus juice smuggling and protection rackets to more respectable professions, such as, owning movie studios. and how they set up the cultures and power structures and norms of that industry. I hope you enjoyed this list of missed opportunities, or how you probably call them fanfic ideas. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.